A historic win, a popular vote victory? Has Trump world and hardworking Americans, they're in a great mood. We all want to believe that the mandate is undeniable. With Trump and Vance, their hard-charging cabinet nominees, Elon Musk, and a Republican House and Senate, how could the goal of transforming government not be reached? Well, before Trump has the opportunity to really drain the swamp monsters will fight for their natural habitat, no matter who they're up against.
Government agents, scientists, soldiers, secret formulas. None of them belong in this swamp. Only one thing does. The Swamp Thing.
Well, the swampy defenders of the status quo find ways to survive, and this includes setting traps for trespassers. And while the Democrats still have power on Capitol Hill, they want to hamstring Trump by forcing hundreds of billions of dollars in wasteful and even destructive year-end spending, including spending for programs and initiatives that voters don't want or support, like they've done, of course, so many times before. We've been through this. Now, this is such a scam, and it seems to happen every year. With members anxious to leave for Christmas, they just abdicate their duty to be faithful stewards of our money. Courtesy of Senator Mike Lee, here are just a few of the ticking time bombs that could be passed in a swampnibus bill. First, a year-long continuing resolution that would cement into place the Democrats' worst spending abuses for the first part of the Trump administration. Disaster. Second, we could be locked in for continuing Ukraine money. Might as well have Treasury just print, another $50 billion and throw it in a bonfire on Capitol Hill. Total waste there. And third, the fast-tracking of Afghan nationals into permanent residency status, even when we know, courtesy of the Inspector General's report, that they can't even be guaranteed to have ever been properly vetted. And fourth, Democrat-authored new standards and regulations on artificial intelligence that will include DEI requirements. AI with DEI. What could go wrong? So will Republicans say no to this madness and help make Trump's first year in office successful? Will they stay as long as it takes in December to force the Democrats to back down? This is what Speaker Mike Johnson warned about back in September.
We have broken the Christmas omni, and I have no intention of going back to that terrible tradition. So there won't be a Christmas omnibus. As somebody asked me in the hallway a little while ago, will there be many buses? We don't want any buses. We're not going to do any buses, okay?
Now, beyond that, sourpuss Schumer is trying to stymie Trump's agenda by ramming through as many liberal judges as possible before the Senate changes hands.
Last night, I also filed cloture on another 9 nominees to serve as district judges across the country. I will now have filed cloture on a total of 12 district court judges since the end of last week. We're not done. There are more judges to consider and confirm. We're going to spend the rest of the week and the rest of this year focused on confirming them.
Yeah, he looks like a real winner there, reading his notes. Well, Trump urged Senate Republicans, of course, to step up and slow down the cram-down. And meanwhile, Democrats haven't given up their strategy of branding everything Trump does as extremist. But now it's using the veneer of bipartisanship to do it. But what's more extremist than always pushing war?
We are prepared to work hard to find bipartisan common ground with our Republican colleagues and the incoming administration on any issue, whenever and wherever possible. But at the same period of time, we will push back against far-right extremism whenever necessary.
And we know the swamp loves wars because the military-industrial complex needs spending to always increase, which will happen with Biden's move authorizing Ukraine to use long-range weapons into Russia.
Is this being done to box in the next administration and make it harder to pull back support for Ukraine?
Well, I can't speak to exactly what made this decision final, but I do think that it's urgent that we put Ukraine on as strong a footing as we can.
Look, the swamp, its allies, they've never cared about what the voters want, which includes putting Americans first. After all, America first, that was the cornerstone of Trump's entire campaign.
The Trump victory is far from a mandate. President Biden won the popular vote by more than 7 million votes in 2020. And I didn't hear Republicans saying, okay, let's give Biden everything he wants because he has a mandate. No, Trump does not have a mandate, and he certainly doesn't have the moral high ground.
This from the party that thought calling Trump a fascist was a brilliant campaign strategy. Well, here's the bottom line. We won, they lost. The American people don't want Joe Biden making any significant policy decisions now. Plus, we saw the videotape. We know he's not the one making any of these moves. The poor man can't even stay in a photo shoot at the G20. We know President Trump is going to stand up for himself and his priorities. But we also need Republicans on both sides of Capitol Hill doing their part to prevent Schumer and Jeffries from hamstringing him until he's back in office. Then the swamp monsters will be the ones running for cover. And that's the angle.
Land of the free, home of the brave, well, has now become, in liberal land, the land of the woke snowflake. Look, don't you just hate to see liberals turning on each other like this? So sad to see. Trump derangement syndrome is taking its toll. Speaking of which, tonight we have more big news from the president-elect and bad news for the radical left. Donald Trump is assembling his new administration. He is doing it in record time. According to an ABC News report, he is making appointments, nominations in, quote, a quarter of the time it has taken some of his predecessors. Coming up, two of those appointments will join us live, including the soon-to-be Deputy Chief of Policy, Stephen Miller, along with the incoming press secretary. I wouldn't wish this job on anybody, Caroline Leavitt, although I do have suggestions for her. After 4 long years of circle-back Jen Psaki and Karine Jean-Pierre, change is coming to the White House briefing room. By the way, what a great idea that Ari Fleischer had. He said, put new media, put talk radio, Fox News, put, people in podcasting, put them in the front rows and take the legacy hate Trump media in the back. Their influence is dead anyway. They had 90% negative coverage of Donald Trump, 90% positive for Kamala. Trump still won in a landslide. Nobody cares what they say. And now change is coming to every facet of our federal government. Might as well do it there as well. And whether the legacy media, the radical left like it or not, it's happening. Moments ago, Donald Trump announced that American business mogul and small business administrator Linda McMahon will be appointed to lead the Department of Education, which might cease to exist by the end of Trump's term. Now, that's great. Why? Because state and local governments know better how to raise their children, and there should be national requirements that they must meet. Our friend, Dr. Mehmet Oz, he has been nominated to be the administrator for Medicare and Medicaid, which Donald Trump has promised to protect, where he will work closely with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That'll be a great 1-2 punch. Dan Scavino is back. He has been picked to be Trump's deputy chief of staff. Good choice. According to reports, Vice President-elect Vance has also confirmed that Trump is interviewing candidates to replace Chris Wray at the FBI. Now, Wray had an opportunity after Comey, I spoke about it often, to restore the reputation, the former greatness, the integrity to the FBI, which continued to operate in a very hyper-partisan manner under his watch. So Chris Wray's time as FBI director is now running short. In fact, far-left, politically motivated bureaucrats from all across the federal government, they should know that their reign of oppression on the American people is about to end. The witch hunts will end. The leaking will end. The abuse of power, the corruption will end. The so-called resistance within our government against we the people will be over. Donald Trump has nominated a team of disruptors like he said he would. They are hell-bent on reforming every single department. Look at what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will do. Waste, fraud, abuse will be gutted. Constitutional order. Remember, the principles of limited government, greater freedom, they will be restored. You won't have the nanny state, cradle to grave, womb to the tomb promises of the left that would never be realized anyway, that always result in broken promises, more poverty, and a loss of freedom. The DOJ must no longer ever be weaponized. We can't live in that country. And institutions, great institutions like the FBI and our intelligence communities, They need to be restored to their former greatness. Under Donald Trump, they will. And despite what you hear from the hysterical legacy media, the incoming administration is confident Trump's cabinet will get confirmed. Not only will Republicans have a 53-seat majority in the Senate, but the president-elect is also ready and willing to use another tool at his disposal. It is not the ideal way to do it, but if he has to, he will, like other presidents have. It's called recess appointments. And like everything else that Donald Trump does, this will send the left, the state-run legacy media mob, into a fit of hysteria. Here's some facts. Let's look at Reuters as the source, shall we? The U.S. Constitution says that a president can make recess appointments to fill vacant positions when the Senate is not in session. The Supreme Court ruled that a president can make those appointments once the Senate has been adjourned for at least 10 days. The first ever recess appointment, well, that was made by the first president himself, George Washington, during the very first congressional recess in 1790. More recently, Ronald Reagan made 240 recess appointments. President George H.W. Bush made 77 recess appointments, including as Secretary of State. Bill Clinton made 139 recess appointments. George W. Bush, 171. Barack Obama, 32. So this Thanksgiving, if you're sitting with your liberal relatives and they're not throwing turkey legs or mashed potatoes at you and they are freaking out, you can present them with these simple, basic, fundamental facts and truth. Presidents from both parties have made hundreds of recess appointments. It will not be unusual. It will not be unlawful for Donald Trump to do the same. So tonight, we can all feel very good about Donald Trump's incoming cabinet. They are about to clean house in the Washington swamp. There is, little that anyone on the radical extreme left can do about it. And of course, that won't stop them from screaming, yelling, and crying and trying. But their manufactured hysteria didn't work during the election. It's not going to work now. It's sort of like it all comes together. It's just one big 9-year period of, breathless Trump, Trump, Trump. And the American people rejected that overwhelmingly in the election. Woke cancel culture is now about to die. Americans are over it. They no longer listen to the media. They don't care what Hollywood celebrities have to say, which is great news. Oprah Winfrey, George Clooney could go back and focus on counting their money. Americans want the American dream restored for everybody else, with freedom and justice and prosperity and equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws for everybody, along with a border that is secure, streets that are safe, lower grocery prices and lower gas prices.
It's been 14 days since the Democrats had to face the truth. They stink worse than the Capitol's men's room after Jerry Nadler's lunch of curry clam soup. Poor Jerry. But we've talked about what the winners can do now. What about the losers? And there are losers, but it's not the ones having public meltdowns. They're victims too. They're no different than a hypochondriac being told that their pimple is a tumor. I'm talking about the party elites like Jamie Raskin, Adam Schiff, or David Muir, the idiots who fueled all those lies. So normally we don't give advice to people who hate us, but we're only doing this because we want them to be as happy as we are, or at least as bubbly as Brit Hume. So Dems, you need to ask yourself, where did you get your information from? The people that gave you Trump hoaxes and phony fact checks also gave you the polls that had Kamala fans wasting money on champagne when they should have been buying Prozac in bulk. The people you trust to give you the news steered you wrong. Why? Were you allowing yourself to be fooled? It's like when I tell Kilmeade to meet me for lunch, then when he leaves the building, I take a crap in his office drawer.
Prequel.
If you feel deceived, that's not our fault. Blame the media that you relied on. You know, those lying sacks of poop that looked you in the eyes each night for the last 8 years or so and filled your heads with more poison than an unvented space heater. So maybe find alternatives. You're off to a great start by watching this show. I've now gained all of Lawrence O'Donnell's former viewers, and I welcome all 12 of you. Because if you really want to correct your course, you can't do that with a faulty GPS.
Take NBC News, who's claiming Trump won due to the diploma divide. In other words, people who voted for Kamala were just more educated and smarter. Well, if that's true, explain this.
1 second, guys, 1 second. So I don't take lightly the call. Sorry, guys, I'm a little nervous. Thank you. She's passionate, she's compassionate, she shows empathy, and most of all, she is not delusional. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. See, saying you lost because you were smarter than us is a denial of reality. It's like saying the sky isn't blue, the earth isn't round, or Joy Behar doesn't have a face that would knock a buzzard off a wagon. She knows it.
It's a lot of parts to that one.
I know. You know, and it's killing your party faster than inviting Chris Wallace to an orgy. When you lose, maybe just admit the winners knew something you didn't. It had nothing to do with credentials or degrees. Right now, your worldview is upside down. And really, who wants to look up Hillary's skirt? So why did Trump win? And even more, why is he surrounded by a rogues gallery of rebel thinkers? It's because something turned him into a cross between George Washington and Genghis Khan with a splash of Arthur Fonzarelli. It was you. Your constant demonization backfired and made him appear appealingly dangerous. So more people began to wonder what the fuss was about, and they took a look, and you know what? They really liked it. Trump has the same effect punk rock did in the 70s, upsetting the bores and attracting the rebels. Suddenly, my Air Supply shirt wasn't getting the ladies. So maybe try doing something you've never done. Assume we're acting on our best intentions, not our worst. Stop calling us garbage just because we don't think biology is a social construct. We aren't trying to hurt anyone. We just want the best for our families. The problem is you've made your family less relevant than politics. And those muscles of familial concern have atrophied. Maybe, just maybe, ask what's best for your family, even if you hate them. As an experiment, present their side of the argument to yourself. It's called steel manning, and it's the opposite of straw manning, but not quite Peyton Manning. Finally, start kicking the tires of identity politics. Look at it. Look at what it actually means, who it really helps, and for how long. Like a line of cocaine at a funeral, you'll see it's a temporary high. Instead of uniting people, identity politics pits them against each other. It's more divisive than wearing a leopard print thong on safari. I know, I learned that the hard way. It's a strategy, though, to keep us from focusing together on the real problems and the real culprits. People make money off our conflict. Those are the people who need an ass kicking. And on that point, we can join together. So come on in. The melting pot is warm. I made sure of that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.